Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We just got some huge news. The Los Angeles Lakers are trading the 28th pick in Danny Green in exchange for Dennis Schroeder from the Oklahoma City Thunder. This was a deal that I had certainly heard about a little bit. I had definitely heard some people theorize about a potential Schroeder to the Lakers trade, and this was the package that made the most sense for it. I immediately have a few questions about the Thunder agreeing to it because I think that Dennis Schroeder actually has some really good value coming off of the season he had where he shot the ball extremely well, best shooting season of his career. His playmaking went down a little bit, but that's not a huge surprise since he was playing alongside the point god in Chris Paul. But still, he had a great year shooting the ball. He played better defense than he has in his entire career, and overall, he's just really good at creating open looks for himself. And I think that having that in a guard is something that's super valuable. And overall, I really think the Thunder could have gotten something better than Danny Green in the 28th pick. I think that they did this, number one, to get the first round pick, but also to get a guy that they view as a tradable asset in Danny Green. I think that they believe that they could probably flip Danny Green into a first round pick in the late 20s. Maybe there's a team in that area. The one that comes to mind for me would be the Dallas Mavericks. That would be interesting in acquiring a 3-and-D wing. The Minnesota Timberwolves would also make sense in that range, as would the Portland Trailblazers. So maybe they can trade that Danny Green deal to one of those teams and get back a third first round pick. However, that would mean that they're coming away with a late teens first round pick and the 28th pick in exchange for Dennis Schroeder. That's a pretty solid return, but still, I feel like they probably could have done a bit better. I think you could have probably gotten a pick in the 10 to 12 range, most likely. I don't know that there's a team that makes a whole lot of sense as a fit in that range, but I just feel like they probably could have done a bit better. But if they do flip Danny Green into another first round pick, then this is a big win for them. Also, acquiring the 28th pick allows them to potentially package that alongside the 25th pick and maybe one of their young players that has shown some potential, such as Terrence Ferguson, Hamidou Diallo, someone like that, and they could turn that package into a higher first round pick, as it has been rumored that they are interested in trading up in this draft. The name that's usually floated around with them is someone like Alexei Pokusevsky, who has demonstrated that he is a player with high potential, but also a very low floor. So I think that he's someone that the Thunder could be very interested in, and if they're able to make that trade up happen, I think that would probably be the guy they were shooting for. Alternatively, another person with high potential I could see being in the range that they could package these two picks for. And to explain myself, I think that the range that you would be looking to get into would probably be that same 15 to 20 range that I was talking about with Danny Green. I saw in a rumored trade the Timberwolves were looking to trade back with the Celtics and acquire the 26th and 30th picks. Obviously, the 25th pick is higher than the 26th pick, and the 28th pick is higher than the 30th pick. So if the Timberwolves were looking to trade back, the Thunder would make a lot of sense as a partner there. And 17 is probably right around where Pokusevsky could be falling, so I think that's probably what the Thunder's mindset was going into this trade. Overall, I really don't think that Danny Green is someone they're looking at as a player. They're mostly just thinking of him as an asset. I'd be very surprised if he was on their roster at the end of the 2020-2021 season. I'd say there's probably a very low chance that that happens. But in the chance that it does happen, I guess we can talk a little bit about what their team would be looking like in that particular situation. I don't think that they would start him over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Lou Dort. They seem pretty locked in with those two as their starting wings. And hopefully, guys, that will be their starting wings for the next decade there in Oklahoma City. Although if Chris Paul is traded, Shai could move to the point guard and Danny Green could slot in alongside him at the 2. If they hang on to Steven Adams, could a team consisting of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danny Green, Lou Dort, Darius Baisley and Steven Adams make a run at a playoff berth? I think it's possible, but probably unlikely. If they retain Chris Paul, however, I do think that this could very well be a playoff team. I don't think that that's the most likely scenario, though, as shown by their willingness to get rid of Schröder for pretty much just a first-round pick. I think that this team is probably going to go on a fire sale and get rid of all of their veterans that have trade value. They'll probably trade Chris Paul, Danny Green, and Steven Adams at some point, and I think that if there's a team that's interested, a Danilo Gallinari signing trade is also perfectly capable of happening. There's a chance of that being a scenario that goes down if a team that doesn't have the cap space to sign Gallo starts to get some interest in him. So really, I think that this is just the start of the fire sale for the Thunder, and I think that Danny Green will likely be moved off of soon. However, in getting that second first-round pick, there's a chance they could move up. Now, moving over to the Lakers side of things. This is probably the more interesting side of things as applies to the NBA next season. Following their 2019-2020 championship, the Lakers were already probably the team that was considered to be in the driver's seat to win the title once again next year. And this deal probably even amplifies that to a further extent. Danny Green was a player that was valuable to them as a 3-and-D wing. However, he was a very similar player to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and although Caldwell-Pope is a free agent this upcoming season, I assume the Lakers will try to bring him back. And overall, rostering both Caldwell-Pope and Green was a bit redundant, and the fact that they were able to take Green and cash in that value and upgrade him to a better player at a position of need seems to be a big win for the Lakers to me. However, this does make re-signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope a very important move this offseason for the Lakers. If they let him go, their guard rotation after Dennis Schroeder is looking very slim. Avery Bradley is probably going to opt into his player option if he hasn't done so already. Alex Caruso is a very serviceable guy off the bench, but after that it really falls off as Quinn Cook has a non-guaranteed deal for next year and Talen Horton-Tucker has not shown much in his rookie season. So I think that re-signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is very important to them, both because of what we saw from him in the finals where he showcased just how valuable of a player he can be, and also because the other player that played a similar mold to him was just moved on from. Outside of that, this also probably makes the Rajon Rondo free agency situation a bit less important for the Lakers. They now have two solid point guards in Dennis Schroeder and Avery Bradley, both guys that are very competent at that position and will be solid rotational pieces for them moving forward. Rondo is probably a better player than Bradley at this point in their careers, but I don't think that it's a significant enough upgrade that the Lakers should look to get into a bidding war with another team. If there is no market for Rondo and they're able to bring him back either on the minimum or the biannual exception, which is around $3 to $3.5 million, if I'm remembering correctly, then I would absolutely do that for the Lakers and retain a guy that was a key part of their playoff success. However, if there are teams that are running it up closer to like a $6 to $8 million range for Rondo, or even the mid-level exception, at that point I think the Lakers would just have to say, all right, you can take him. See how it goes for you. I don't think that Rondo is significantly good enough that that's the type of investment they should be making. Especially, I probably didn't think they should have done that prior to this trade, but with the acquisition of Schroeder as a very competent, very, very good offensive player at the point guard position, I really don't think that they should overpay for Rondo in the slightest. I think that it would not be a good idea at all. Talking about Schroeder a bit more, he shot the ball very, very well, 38.5% from three this past year, 46.9% from the field, averaged upwards of 15 points per game, I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but he had a terrific season. His assist numbers were down as he only averaged about 4 assists per game, but he still has potential as a very good shot creator, and not potential. He still is a very good shot creator. That was mostly just the effect of him playing minutes alongside two other point guards in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chris Paul. I'm sure that now that he's on the Lakers, those playmaking numbers will increase back to their prior stature. And I think that playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis will be terrific for Schröder. We saw him very much benefit from playing alongside Chris Paul and the open three-point looks that he could generate for Schröder. And nobody's better at getting open three-point looks for his teammates than LeBron James. He has so much gravity as a driver into the paint, and he also is just such a terrific playmaker, has eyes in the back of his head. He's going to find Schröder if he's open, and obviously, if Schröder continues to shoot the way he has, this is a huge, huge upgrade for the Lakers at the guard position. Outside of that, they gave up the first-round pick, which was a chance for them to infuse some young talent. However, the position I really think they would have been looking at in that part of the draft would have been point guard. Someone like Malachi Flynn, Trey Jones, Cassius Winston would have made a lot of sense to me if for the Lakers picking there at 28. And Dennis Schroeder's a significantly better player than any of those guys, and the Lakers are really looking to win now before LeBron James is eminently forced into retirement as he continues to age. So I think that this is a terrific move for the Lakers. I guess to close out this video, I'll give each team a grade. We'll start with the Thunder. I think that Danny Green was a nice guy for them to add as a trade chip that they could use to either get another first-round pick or move up into the earlier part of the first round. And getting a second first-round pick was also very good for their trade-up hopes. However, I do think that they could have done better, and for that reason, I'm going to give them a C- in this trade. For the Lakers, they gave up a first-round pick, which could have been a solid young talent for them, but it was really late in the first round, and chances are that's not going to amount to much. They also gave up Danny Green, but he was a bit of a redundant player for them as they already have a solid 3-and-D wing in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And they added a guy who's going to be their third option next season and can be a really good shot maker, shot creator, playmaker, ball handler, and actually something I haven't even talked about that's a bit underrated from him. He can hound guys on the defensive end of the floor. We saw how valuable he was in that series for the Thunder against the Rockets. With him off the court, they were a -28. With him on the court, they were a +3 in this Houston Rockets series. And I know it's a small sample size, but that demonstrates Dennis Schroeder's value. The Lakers did a great job getting him in this trade, and for that reason, I am going to give them an A- for this trade. Let me know in the comment section down below who you think won. As evidenced by my grades, I believe that the Lakers won this trade. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. That's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all again very soon.